What is up, people? It is me, Monster58. Welcome back to another video review, and today we're going to be taking a look at the HIYA Toys Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire Scylla, as she appeared in the 2024 film Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire. And yes, I said she because guess what? She is a she. I did not know that Scylla was a she either until I looked it up online, but yes, this is a she. When we take a look at the box here, really nice box. Actually smaller than, you would normally expect, but given her type of character, being essentially like a bug crab thing, I'm not really that surprised. But you can see the MonsterVerse logo, Legendary logo as well, Toho logo, Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire, got Scylla there, got some more nice artwork or product shots of Scylla there, more nice product shots of Scylla there, and then you got your back of the box as per usual. Looks really nice, and I do like this box, because when it comes to HIYA Toys boxes lately, they've been rather big, and so to get a nice sized box here that's not too large is really nice. But, folks, without further ado, alrighty, folks, here we have the HIYA Toys Scylla from the 2024 film Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire out of the box, and I gotta say, guys, she looks fantastic. Now, of course, if you are following the MonsterVerse, she was introduced in 2019's King of the Monsters, but we didn't really get much of her beyond the fact that she did technically bow to Godzilla at the end of the film. Other than that, though, the only introduction we really had of Scylla was the fact that she was introduced in 2024 just to be killed by Godzilla within the first 5 minutes of the movie. At the end of the day, this figure, I believe, and the Playmates one are the only figures that we currently have, at least that are confirmed, that we're going to get of this character. I do understand why, especially given the fact that when it comes to a character like this that was mainly used to just get annihilated by Godzilla at the beginning of the film, it really doesn't make sense to maybe make a figure out of her, but I'm really happy that HIYA did, because for me, the reason I picked her up, I really do like the, visual, like, there's different visuals that you get on the shelf, and for me to have her as a character on the shelf, it's nice, breaks up all the visuals and gives a much nicer display at the end of the day. So when it comes to Scylla, I'll tell you this right now, she looks fantastic. When it comes to her looks, I cannot deny she's amazing. The first reaction I had when I took her out of the box was, ooh. And that's because, I'll tell you this, she looks disgusting, like absolutely gross, but in a good way. That is not a detriment to the figure, that's a compliment, because the detail, the paint, when it comes to how she looks, they did an absolutely bang-on job. The color is absolutely spot on, and all the details look really good. So taking a look here, we're going to grab her. You can see the very Cthulhu-style head. It looks cool. These are all made of soft rubber plastic as well, but she looks really good. You can see what would be her eyes right there. Those look really nice. And again, it's this color. Look at all that detail and the shading in there. That looks really good, especially here on the back as well. Look at that, on her back right here. This looks really nice. You can see she even has these membranes, which are a benefit and a curse, and I'll explain why. But these look really nice. You can see they're nicely shaded as well. And then look at the legs. They're all gross, man. They just look so good, though. And then these little ridges, these are sharp. Not super sharp, but definitely when you're posing her around, you can hurt yourself on these, especially like down here. This little bit right here, that's a lot sharper than you'd think it would be where my pointer finger is right here. So yeah, she looks really good, and even here on the bottom she looks, so she even has like these little mandible leg type things on the bottom right here. Those look very interesting, but overall, like I told you, when it comes to her looks, she looks really good. And one of the issues you can see right away is her standing, but we'll just keep her like this because this is the height. This is the best way I've been able to get her to stand, so we'll keep that. But overall, as you guys can see, when it comes to the detail, when it comes to the paint, she just looks fantastic. And I don't think HIYA would have really done any better of a job than they did representing the character that we saw on screen. Especially because, if I'm not mistaken, they did use the CGI model for this, and that is really cool. So, what we're going to do is we're going to set Scylla off to the side here, and we are going to be doing some size comparisons. Here she is with the Transformers Legacy United Infernac Universe Deluxe Class Magnius. As you can see, she's not actually that much taller. I mean, when you have her on her tippy toes, she is, but she's not still that much taller. And so when it comes to her height and her size, she's actually pretty well sized when it comes to her size in general. I have no major issue with it, and you'll see that when we bring in Godzilla here. Alrighty, folks, and here she is with the SH Monster Arts Godzilla evolved from the 2024 film Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire. Now, when it comes to this Godzilla, obviously this is after he kills her, after he kills Tiamat, and after he absorbs Tiamat's energy and everything like that. But at the end of the day, when it comes to their height, especially when you look in the film, they were basically eye to eye. Now, again, if I raise her up, if I can do this without her falling over, I can do that without her falling over. You can see that their height is much better when you do this. Yeah, you can kind of see it here. It's just her front legs. Yeah, you can see right there. That's a much better height. And then I'll put the screenshot of how it appeared in the film. You can see that these two pretty well sized. I have no major complaints with this. If you have the one from HIYA Toys as well instead of the SH Monster Arts Godzilla, it's basically the same height. So you're going to get a really nice height between the two of them. You can see Godzilla has to like body check her, and then he throws her by one of her legs and then blows her head up by, breathing the atomic breath into it. But at the end of the day, Godzilla didn't really change sizes when he did become evolved. He just changed color, obviously, and got some new abilities. But at the end of the day, really happy with the size. I have no major complaints with it here. Alrighty, folks, time to get into her accessories. This is where she falls flat. She doesn't come with anything, and it would have been cool to see like some of the webs that she was shooting at Godzilla. Would have been cool to see that, or some of the silk, whatever you want to call it. But the other thing is that this has to do with her stability and articulation. I wish she came with the stand. At the end of the day, she is not easy to stand up whatsoever. And because of those membranes, remember I was telling you that it was, blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because those are accurate to the film. At the end of the day, she had those in the film. But because they're made out of rubber, unfortunately, because they're connected to her legs, well, that means when you try to move her legs around, the rubber membranes on this figure like to snap back into place because, well, they're made of rubber. And because of that, you never really get to be able to pose her in any way that you really want to. Now, I will tell you, I was able to get her in a pose where she was holding up a claw of hers like she did in the film, like she had one of her legs hanging and, about to like stab or, claw at something. But it took a fair bit of doing. She is not easy to be stable. And the pose that you see that I have her in now, this is about the most reliable pose I've been able to put her in without her wanting to just tip over. Because God forbid you move one of the legs, she'll just completely tip over. Plus, I also recommend that you put her in this pose because over time I imagine that these joints, with how kind of loose they are, they're not super loose, but with how loose they kind of are already for the tips of her legs, I would recommend you put her in this pose so that you don't ruin those joints over time. At the end of the day, you can't get her into some crazy poses, but at the very least you can keep her stable with this, and it also puts less stress on those joints. And so I wish she came with the stand, and I'm going to show you guys something. Well, I'll talk about it at the very least because I don't have it on me right now. But I'll point out something that SH Figure Arts did that I really do wish that HIYA Toys ended up doing for Scylla here. For the SH Figure Arts Bond and Anya Forger from the anime known as Spy Family, they included an Anya figure, which is the little girl, but they also included a figure of Bond, their dog. And, well, he's a dog, and he stands on 4 legs. Unfortunately, he's not quite super stable on his own. However, they added this little, like, table-style stand where you could essentially rest his belly on it, and it would act sort of like a table stand. I kind of wish they added something like that for her, because at the end of the day, or even just a stand in general, she's not super stable. And to have something like that would have been nice to stabilize her, to be able to pose her much better. Because I'm going to tell you this right now, I'm going to pose her on a shelf where the floor is glass, and I'll be honest with you, I am not sure if she's going to be able to stand up correctly without falling over. I hope if I put her in this pose she will, but those are some things to know about. That's why I do wish that she came with at least a stand, if anything else, but unfortunately she doesn't. So, when it comes to her articulation, unfortunately I'll tell you this too, that's my other gripe about this figure, is she can kind of move, but because of her lack of stability, there's not really that much options to get her into any poses, even like she did in the movie. I mean, it'd be nice to get her into, you could get her into some poses when she's on the ground and she gets thrown by Godzilla, but you can't really get a pose where she's like mid-walk or something like that, and that's a bit of a disappointment. They definitely, for this figure, went more for function over, looks over function, and so you'll see that here. So the head, well, I'll tell you about the head, is you'll see my head's extended out pretty far. Yours will not look like this when you get the figure in the box. It'll actually be pushed all the way in. What you need to do is you need to get a hair dryer and you need to loosen that up by blasting it with heat, and then you have the enough heat where the plastic expands, you can pull the head out. Recommend you do that. But the head can then go up and down like this. It can go left and right a little bit, and no twisting or anything like that. The legs themselves, they have a ball joint here, but again, the rubber membranes not only like to push it back into place wherever you move them from, but they also kind of like to tear. I've seen some people's tear already, and I think mine was tearing a little bit here on the edge. But they bend like this at this joint. They have a ball joint, but again, it's kind of pointless. There's another joint here that you can also move. Now, you can twist some of these, but like the one here on this back leg doesn't like to twist at all for me, so I don't try and force it. And then you have a little joint here as well. So like I said, despite the fact that she is gorgeous to look at in a disgusting way, like she's absolutely disgusting, but in a really nice way, where they really fall short on this figure is the articulation as well as the lack of accessories. I think the main thing of an accessory, again, a stand would have been great here, and that's really unfortunate that she doesn't come with one. And so, guys, for my final concluding thoughts on the HIYA Toys Godzilla X Kong The New Empire Scylla figure, this is okay. At the end of the day, they really went for more form over function in this figure. Is she accurate to the film in terms of her looks? Absolutely. By far the most accurate Scylla figure out of the two that we currently have, which is the Playmates one. But again, the Playmates one is meant to be thrown around and stuff like that. That's meant to be actually really, really played with. This is more of an adult-style collectible. And another good benefit about her is that she's only $60. If this was charged by SH Monster Arts, you can expect this thing to be like $120. The fact that she's 60 is a really nice change of pace. Obviously, HIYA is really great at offering these characters and these figures at at a lower price in comparison to SH Monsters. That's part of the reason why I like them so much. But the detriments. The big detriment is obviously her stability and the lack of articulation. Unfortunately, even though she has joints that can move and stuff like that, because she isn't super stable and because of those plastic membranes, those rubber membranes, she doesn't really like to move and stabilize all that well, meaning you can't really get her into any poses that you would maybe like her to get into, which is maybe balancing in a couple of her legs. I don't know what they could have done. Personally, I think that they could have probably made the tips of her legs a bit thicker and wider. Now, I know that wouldn't have been as accurate as it was in the film, but it would have helped with her stability. I think that little sacrifice for on-screen accuracy would have benefited this figure a lot. And in addition to that, which also coincides with everything I've been saying, the lack of accessories. Sure, I do wish that she had some sort of web or silk, effect part, but the major thing I wish she came with is a stand. When it comes to a stand, it would have been really nice to have that, especially if they, got her out and started to mess around with her after she was made and knowing that she was unstable or not super stable. It would have been nice to see a stand to be able to keep her stable, especially when you're displaying her on other shelves and stuff like that. Like I said, I can display her on a glass shelf. I hope she stands upright, but we'll see what ends up happening, right? So at the end of the day, when it comes to this figure, I'm going to give her between a 6 and a 7 out of 10. And again, she's really all looks, and that's really what I'm happy about, and I'm going to keep her in a static pose anyway. But the fact is she's a figure, and she should be able to be posed. She should have some maybe level of an accessory here too. And so I'm taking all those points off because it's a real shame that she's actually really frustrating to mess around with. More frustrating than I'd like her to be. And any figure to be. So that's why she's between the 6 or a 7. And when, doubt you if you gave her a 6. I'm between. I can see why people would inch over towards a 6. I can see why inch over towards a 7. But if I had to say between 6 or 7, I know I said I'm in between, but I really probably would just give her a 6. And that's really sucky because, again, price is nice. She looks fantastic. Detail is great. It's just the functionality of her messing around with her as a figure is really frustrating sometimes. Would I recommend her? If you don't mind the fact that she is not super stable, yeah, I would, because she's pretty cheap, all things considered, especially when you compare it to SH Monster Arts. I don't have a reference from there, but when you're thinking about how much SH Monster Arts figures cost, this is a pretty damn good deal. And also the fact that she is one of only 2 versions of this character that we're getting in figure form, and the other one is definitely meant for more younger audience, and definitely meant to be thrown around and played with a lot more than this one. So if you're looking for the most screen-accurate version, this is all you're going to get for the time being. So yes, I would recommend it for that very fact, but at the end of the day, I can definitely understand why you would pass on her. It's very understandable why. buy. Alrighty, so I did pick her up on the Big Bad Toy Store, so leave a link in the description of that. Also leave links down below to Amazon as well as other retailers. Try and leave a link directly to HIYA as well to see if you guys can pick her up if you do wish to do so. But yeah, I think that's really it for the review. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. Please like, comment, rate, and subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Also follow me on the socials; those will be linked in the description below. And with that, guys, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video review, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Peace.